As suggested, we're following up on the initial video I did where we look at a very casual tier list of how Saitama from One Punch Man would react to various anime protagonists engaging him in battle after some kind of misunderstood encounter. Since we had some left over, we're going to be picking up the rest of them in this video. So don't worry if you haven't seen the first part, I'll be going over the tier grades again and you can check out the previous video exploring this after watching the one you're looking at right now. Remember, please watch both parts of this to get full context. Otherwise, you're just gonna be that weird guy in the comment section who's getting mad about something everyone else already knows was explained. Just a quick clarification before we start, these gradings don't necessarily mean one character is strictly stronger than another for placing higher or lower. It can purely be down to the way Saitama perceives them differently due to their power set's complexity or the person's general vibe. One character's overall nature might leave more of an impression on Saitama, even if that character is destructively beneath that of another who placed worse. Alright. Let's quickly punch through these tiers, which I've related to loose quotes from the series. OK denotes that their powers or overall interaction doesn't leave much of an impression on Saitama, and he's keen to just kinda get through it. You're kinda fast implies that Saitama's impressed to some degree, even if they're nowhere near his level. Serious series is because powers are kind of weird or because their efforts inspired him. Saitama's chosen to bust out one of his traditional or improvised killer moves, such as Serious Punch, Serious Sidesteps, etc. You're strong is a reference to when he told Boros he was strong. So I'm using that as a way to say that even though Saitama's limitlessness is too much for them, he was able to recognize the intense level they brought to the dance. And finally, we have a dream, which is a fun way of saying that Saitama's fought someone so powerful that he's begun to wonder if this is the same as that dream he had with the Subterranean King. A fight so enjoyable that it couldn't possibly be real. A fight that's taken him to new heights he's had yet to experience. Okay, so we placed Gon, Tanjiro, Itadori, Gojo, Invincible from Amazon, and Sung Jin-woo from the anime version. And now we have some big names left to place on the board who we didn't get around to including from the first video. And just remember, this is all for fun. No need to say spiteful things, make nasty remarks, or act like you share a bed with one of these characters just because you disagree with myself or someone else in the comments. It's fine to disagree, but have some class about it and try not to disrespect others because this is all just fiction at the end of the day, and fiction most of us enjoy together. Yeah, who am I kidding? Those types of guys aren't gonna listen anyway. Okay, who better to start off part 2 than with one of the most popular ninja characters in existence, Naruto from Naruto, which when you look at how ridiculously powerful he is and how strong a lot of his verse are, do they even really need to be calling themselves ninjas at this point? You're not fooling anyone with that job title anymore, especially when referring to Naruto Uzumaki, who may as well start handing in his application form for the Z Warriors, because at his scale of strength, he stopped being a kunai thrower long ago. Yes, the blonde-haired shinobi who had a fox inside of him, not in that way, is known to move faster than light and produce damage output crazy enough to put the moon, a planet, or supposedly even a star in danger. Wow, who needs samurai in your world when the ninjas are this good? With mastery over a huge arsenal of magical ninjutsu and close combat techniques, Naruto's level of power through the timeline of the series has reached scales which truly make him a main character capable of the truly incredible. So, in an alternate timeline mishap where Saitama ends up going back in time and through a dodgy wormhole during the end of his final fight with Garo, he instead appears in Konoha, where his punch is aimed in the direction of the Hokage, and in such a coincidental accident, Naruto must have been having a bad day, because Talk no Jutsu wasn't his first option, and it all kicks off from there. Now, I talked up Naruto a fair bit, and for a good reason, because he goes in the tier of you're strong. With the level of output capable from Naruto mixed in with his speed and versatility, Saitama will certainly experience someone that's good at a hell of a lot of things while having the raw stats to earn some acknowledgement from the caped baldy, or in this particular scenario, the naked baldy. This would be a similar situation with Boros, where even though Boros could not damage him, the sheer scale of what Naruto could produce would certainly be noted by Saitama if he decided to allow the fight to prolong itself by not hitting Naruto past a certain level of force, or if he decided to just resist all the hits while thinking of a way to get back to his own world. Naturally, at some point, the two would call it a day, clear up the misunderstanding, and try to figure out a way to get Saitama back to the Monster Association arc in his own verse, since even though I forced these two into a fight for this scenario, I don't think they'd really ever be fighting for long. Moving on to another incredibly strong character from one of the most popular series ever, we have another person who needs to ditch their job, Luffy from One Piece. You're strong enough to dominate countries at this point. What are you wasting your time being a pirate for? Jokes aside, the king of stretching has come a long way way since the start of the series, and with his foundational attributes mixed in with his gears and overall abilities, it's very clear that he's an absolute juggernaut who can cause mayhem if needed. So now let's imagine Saitama went through a different wormhole, not the Naruto wormhole, but the One Piece wormhole, on his way back when trying to navigate through time after his cosmic scrap with Garo, and as he arrived, he accidentally threw a punch to blow up the Straw Hat's pirate ship. Then, from there, Luffy has to teach this weird bald guy with no clothes on a lesson to keep the crew happy. Well, at the risk of having the One Piece community coming for me since I'm going to be putting him a little lower than the other poster boy for shonen anime, Luffy's going to go in the serious series tier. With all of that rubber business, the gears and whatnot, I'd give Luffy the benefit of the doubt in saying that the usual half-caring Saitama jabs might not get the job done without him cranking it up to a fatal level, which I don't think he'll do. So let's say that to overcome Luffy's gears, rubberness and whatnot, Saitama would bust out a serious series move to cancel out whatever shenanigans the pirate is resorting to, since we know anything done somewhat seriously by Saitama can pretty much end anything around a certain level of power or below. I also think Saitama would be somewhat amused by a human who could go all stretchy. He'd have some genuine intrigue in that, at least for a little while, and might even do something as silly sounding as a serious stretch to show his appreciation for Luffy's uniqueness and tenacity. What would a serious stretch look like? I don't know, probably something stupid. The reason why Luffy ranks lower than Naruto, at least for me, is the lower damage, durability and speed capabilities of the Seafarer. But of course, he's still a very game fighter in his own right with that funky body of his to make things interesting too. The mental image of Saitama and Luffy smiling together in straw hats is a nice one, and I think after they're done scrapping, they'll share a nice meal together. But let's keep it real, Saitama won't be engaging in any piracy. Next up, we had the matchup that I cannot even begin to imagine ever breaking out into a fight in the first place. Shigeo Kageyama, aka Mob from Mob Psycho 100. Saitama would have to just be in the area when something drastic puts Mob in his crazy state, because that lovable kid would never try to harm Saitama for any reason in a right state of mind. Mob's so lovable that I don't even want to create a made up scenario where something bad enough has happened for him to get emotionally distraught. Why would you want to do that to Mob? Are you that desperate for a tier list ranking that you'd be so heartless to upset sweet Mob to get it? Alright, here's what we'll do. Similarly to season 3 of Mob Psycho 100, Shigeo dives into the road to save a child from being hit by a car, and the impact accidentally turns him haywire with his powers going off the rails. Saitama's in the area doing his grocery shopping since this place had an amazingly good set of deals worth traveling out of his neighborhood for, and he just so happens to see this occur, knowing that Shigeo did something selfless and heroic, but now is scarily out of control. So Saitama knows he's a great kid who is clearly having some issue because of the accident, and that's how they collide for the first time. Now, I imagine a lot of this fight would be similar to how Tatsumaki fought Saitama, so we can just go with that and say it'd be more or less the same kind of idea, with Saitama getting tossed all over the place by Mob as he tries to calm him down while attempting to keep nearby civilians safe as possible. Either he'd eventually wear Mob out just by being able to withstand everything he could give until Mob collapses from exhaustion, or sooner or later Saitama would come shining through with that simple wisdom he's known for and say something that would get through to Mob and help bring him out of that destructive form caused by the accident. Under no circumstances will Saitama hit Mob, because as we know, Saitama has a soft spot for kids, so he's obviously not going to take a stance and deliver the Sentichuro special. Anyways, after getting him under control, Shigeo will apologize for all the trouble he's caused. Saitama will listen and give that simple but beautiful advice he always seems to have when it's needed most. Then he'll tell Mob that he did something truly heroic and brave by saving that child from the speeding car with that genuine smile he gives when he's really impressed with someone on a personal level. You know the one I mean. They'd chat a bit, and Saitama would tell him endearingly what an odd kid he is, and Mob would likely say Saitama is kind of odd too. Then he'd give Mob a pat on the back and tell him he's made of good stuff, do his best from now on, controlling that amazing power, and how impressed he is that a kid his age could be capable of so much. So for me, Mob goes in the "you're kind of fast" category, and it's all to do with what I've just described. Mob might not be as powerful as some people below him on this list, but Saitama will recognize how endearing and how selfless he is, and what level of skill and power he holds despite being such a soft-spoken, well-meaning school kid who's managed to turn out to be such a great little guy despite having such destructive power at his disposal all these years. Especially since he knows two other strong espers who like to cause trouble sometimes. You guys know who I'm talking about. Saitama can be a fantastic judge of character when it comes to these things, and I really think he'd be impressed with young Shigeo, and I think he's one of the few characters on this tier list that he'd genuinely appreciate after getting to know him, rather than just some powerful guy who happens to be around. I don't think they'd converse a ton afterward, but Saitama would think positively of him like he did with Child Emperor after seeing how he behaved in the Monster Association arc. Again, I think Shigeo is in this tier mainly because of his personality, type of power, and maturity for a kid of his age, and after the situation is resolved, it'd leave Saitama with a legitimately good impression of him. Alright, the moment you've been waiting for. It's Goku time. While he can throw a decent punch or two, his fighting skills are somewhere around the level of Snake Bites Neck, and those ki blasts aren't probably any better than Vaccine Man's from episode 1. So, after Goku unknowingly eats the bowl of beef stew Saitama just paid for, he one punches him off into the distance while Genos applauds his swift delivery of justice for punishing that greedy fraud. You're kinda fast here for Goku, mainly because of the speed he went from how hard Saitama hit him. Okay, I'm just kidding, don't crucify me, I'm just kidding. I couldn't resist, okay? I know midway through that paragraph I had people writing out my channel name in the death note, but the opportunity was too good for me to pass up. Alright, seriously now, Goku from Dragon Ball Z. Of course, Goku is on a completely different level to everyone else on this list, and the most famous in both videos, so I feel like I don't need to explain here too much. It's an absolute given that he would push Saitama to incredible heights never seen before. How would they meet? Well, maybe perhaps Whis caught wind of an interesting human in another universe and thought Goku would want to have a play around with him, see if it's something of interest. However, as for who would win, well, this comes down to how you interpret Saitama. Some people will say the gag-like power of his strength and existence, ideas reinforced by one, would have him ramp up into taking a victory since that's the very concept of his potential, while others will say that the gap is simply too far apart for Saitama to do that before succumbing to damage, even if we've yet to see him display damage taken, which people are so keen to try and apply to him without convincing evidence. Of course, I believe in the narrative suggestion from one story that no matter the odds, Saitama will adapt, grow, and overcome in whatever wacky way required, which trumps traditional power scaling. However, you don't have to believe the same thing or agree with me, since this tier list ranking doesn't strictly involve wins and losses, so I hope no matter your stance on a winner, we can all agree with the tiering of him at the very least in this video. Regardless of what side of the coin you fall on, it would be an awesome interaction which I'm sure the two would love. Saitama for finding someone that can test him in ways he's yet to experience, and Goku for finding an ever-improving partner for battle. Saitama would likely find Goku's hair-changing transformations cool the more and more they fought, and maybe even be a little jealous that he gets 3 or 4 different hair colors while he himself has no hair color, and Goku would be thrilled to know that there's a human out there who can somehow keep up with him throughout their sparring and increasing intensity, almost like he's a taller Krillin. As I'm sure many of you have been expecting, Goku goes into the dream tier, because with so many degrees of spectacular strength available with Goku, the limits Saitama will climb throughout the fight will provide him with some exhilaration, likely to the point where he wonders if this is even real. And since he'd realized Goku is an okay guy and not someone threatening to destroy all of humanity, I think he'd actually be able to enjoy this fight rather than, fighting someone this powerful on the basis of them harming innocents or trying to kill his friends or anything foul like that. Then once they're done, off to the local noodle place where they can both try to persuade Genos to treat them to a large meal. And if he's not willing to cough up, maybe Moomin Rider can cover the tab. So there you have it. A video across 2 parts where we tiered how Saitama would rank encounters with popular protagonists based on how much they would impress him after random and misunderstood physical confrontations, mostly gauged by a mix of their power, vibe, and interaction. Thanks for watching, be sure to subscribe so the channel can grow, leave a like, and you're welcome back anytime to the channel of Saitama World. Keep an eye if you love One Punch Man like so many of us. Thanks.